The next thing we need to do now is to link our fonts because we are going to be making use of fonts. So I just have to close this down, stop the application. I just have to come over to the project directory, root directory itself. Then I have to create another file called reactnative.config. Now inside this React Native config is where we are going to be linking our source folder. If you can check, our source folder contains two folders called assets and fonts. So the assets is where our images are stored, and also the fonts is where our fonts are stored. And when I mean images, these images are in SVG because we are working exactly with SVG graphics. So all these things you see over here are SVG graphics. So I exported each of them and also converted them to SVG. So when I hit on them, let's say, let me go to the normal directory. So you can see that in the normal directory, we have all these files as SVG. And when I hit on any of them, you can see they are SVG files. So I just have to close that. And because we want to make use of the fonts that we imported, we just have to come and inside our reactnative.config.js, we just have to type export this module. We have to export assets. So it's going to accept an array that is going to link to our fonts. So we want to export everything in the fonts and link it together with our Java application. The next thing we are going to do is to create a variables file. This variable file is where we are going to be exporting our screen height, screen width, and a lot of percentage that we are going to be making use of. So in my root directory, I'm going to create a file called variables. The first thing is to grab our dimensions from React Native. I'm going to close this down. So it's called dimensions from React Native. Now the dimensions come with two things called the width and the height, but we get that from dimensions.getWindow. So we grab the window, we get the width and the height, the full width and the full height. So when we type height, we can see the surjections. When we type width, we can see the surjection. Then I have to export it. So I'm going to export this as a big letter called height so that it's not going to conflict each other. Sorry for that. Also, we have to export the width, which is going to be small width, while for this one is capital width. So we are going to create a method that is going to be calculating our percentages. So we are going to call it percentage, which is going to be a method that is going to accept two things. The first one is the number, which is the height, or let's say dimension. Then the next one is the percentage. Then inside of it, this is just a mathematical expression. It's very simple. All we just have to return is, we have to return the dimension, then we can divide it with 100. If you are familiar with mathematics, you can guess what I did here. All we just did is to get the dimensions, divide it by 100, then we multiply it by the percentage we want. Let's say we want 80% of the screen height. We can actually calculate this mathematically with this expression. So that's exactly what I did. There's nothing much there. Then beneath that, we are going to export some other components, some other variables. The first one is going to be the top height. If you check in the application, let me just open the main application. Or let me see whether I have it installed. I think this one. The thing got it overridden. So the app we just installed now, I think it override it. So we don't have the other one. Okay, I guess this one. Same thing. So the app we just installed now have it overridden. But when you check in the graphic design, you can see that there is a width here. There's a width at the top. There's a width at the bottom. So we want to define those widths. Also, there's a width in the middle. we want to define all those widths. And also these buttons has width, they have height. So we want to define mainly the width itself and a couple of heights. So we call the first one the top height, which is going to take the percentage. We want to get it from the screen height. I think I need to name the screen heights. It's going to take in the screen height, and we need the 60%. We also need to export const called bottom height, which is going to take the percentage as well, and it's going to take the screen height, and we need to get only 40% of it. We also need to define the SVG height. The SVG height is going to take a percentage that is going to refer to the screen height itself, and we only need the 100% of that, but we are going to divide that with 2.3. So right now, let's go over to our app.js and start some things. We are going to clear the default boilerplate of React Native. So we are going to clear everything here. Just remove that. And if you're familiar with Visual Studio Code, you can actually create a component structure with that. I'm just going to put a view here and a simple text. I'm just going to say hello so that I can clear this yourself. So at the top here, we are going to be importing some couple things. The first one we are going to import, we are going to import the text, the view, also the style sheets, form. I guess you know that from React Native, but we made a mistake here. So it's called React Native. The next thing is to import animated. If you already did not watch the setup video, you wouldn't have an idea of what I'm doing right now. So I suggest that you watch the installation video. React Native re-animated. So we also have to import, for now we don't need the SVG, so let me just leave it. Now we have to import the illustrations that we defined, so I'm just going to turn these illustrations. We have to import, first thing is, we call the first one illustration, which is going to come from the source folder, and it's going to come from assets, illustration.svg. So this is the big guy here holding the coin sign at his hand. The next one is to import the white button. Let me just name it the white L from. So guys, sorry for that little noise. So I imported the white L from white L SVG, and you can see the preview of that on this little mini map on the left. So we are done with importing for now. Now let's go over to the main layout itself. Let me save this app and let's refresh it. Okay, we already have the app stopped. All we have to do is run the app again. So while the app is being running, right now let's set up our main view. So this one is going to accept a style of flex 1, and it's going to justify everything to the center. And let's give it a background color of white. Then inside of it, we have to get rid of that text. We have to bring down another view. This view is going to accept, sorry guys for that. Of course, our metro bundler that's starting, which is going to definitely run our application. So it's going to accept a style of, you're going to have a height of top height. So if you remember, we defined this top height in our variables. So that's exactly what we are using right now. And that top height is exactly 60%. So that's exactly what we are using at the top height here. It's going to make use of the 60% of the screen, which is going to justify everything on it to the center. And it's going to have also a background color of white. Let's give it a padding top of 10 or 50, not 10, sorry. So let's wrap this back in view. Then inside of it, let's bring down our text. So our text is just a simple text for now. So let me just save this and let's see what our metro bundler have to offer. So let's just wait for this and expand this. So guys, I'm going to drag this down this way and leave this up. So because I'm using React Native 0.61, I can automatically reload the application when I hit R on my metro bundler. It's going to reload the application for me. So where you can see there's no text, but if I say hello over here, you can see the text is going to come out right now. So let me hit that, and you can see a text just showed before it got disappeared. So let me reopen this app. It's not responsive. It's called Bitcoin app on YouTube. So you can see the hello, and you can see that everything is justified to the center and it's taking up 60% of the height. So let's get rid of this top nav bar. So the way we can get rid of that is to use the app.options, which is going to be an object that's going to accept a top bar. The top bar is going to accept a visible of false. So let's save. And when we save that, automatically it should reload our application without wasting time. So you can see when we give this a border width of 1, you can see exactly how it took out everything for us. So guys, I'm being more practical because I want you guys to really understand the flow of all these things, so that when you are building your own, you wouldn't have too much struggles on all these things. So inside this, we are going to put down an animated view. Now the animated view is going to accept a style that will justify the content to the center. Let's give it a background color of white, and also give it a padding horizontal of 10. Inside our animated view, we now have to bring down a text. Now the text right now is going to accept some couple of cool styles. Let me just close that down and wrap this. There's going to have a font size. Now let me just put a text here. Let's say welcome to GD Coin, your smart crypto exchange. Now you can see that when we put the text, and let's just put a font size of 20 and save that, you can see the text automatically appear without wasting our time. So for the text itself, let's complete the styling. It's going to align everything. Let's align everything to the center. I'll give it a font family of Github bold. So this font family is what I imported on the source folder. So that's exactly what we are using, Github bold, and that's exactly what is in our illustration. So let's check for this font. So let's hit that and go inside. You can see over here we have the font to be Github bold. Let's give it a font size of okay, we have a font size. Let's give it a font weight of 300, and also let's give it a padding horizontal of 5. So you can see the text looks perfect now. Let's refresh that. Then we need to bring another view. So this view itself is going to have an animated .view inside of it. Now this animated .view is going to have also a style. We have to justify the content to the center, and this is where our illustration itself is going to start to play in. So right now, let's close this down, and inside here we can now bring in our illustration. Let's save that. So if you made a mistake of missing to use your metro config settings I brought in here, you cannot be able to use this SVG because the size overlap is going to crash your application. So make sure you have this inputted in your metro config, and make sure you also installed React Native SVG transformer. But I installed it as a dev dependency. Let me just show you. So over here, you can see I installed it as a dev dependency by using the capital D flag. So right now you can see the thing overlaps our screen, and it's so big and so wide. So what I have to do now is to reduce it. So if you can remember, I defined some things over here, SVG height. So we also have to define SVG width. For now, let's just fix the height, then we can find a way to define the SVG width. So the height is going to be SVG height. So let's save, and you can see it's taking shape. So let's come over here and define the SVG width. So the SVG width is going to take the percentage of, we need to pass the screen height, we need 100%, but we are going to divide that with 2.1. So that's approximately around 80% of it, or 79% of it. That's what we are making use of. Then here I can now pass the width. So you can see that the width itself is so much that there's no space out there. So when we apply this width, SVG width. So let's check. You can see it brings it to the center, making it normalized. So that's how we can make use of those heights and width that we defined. So beneath this animated.view, the view itself, everything is wrapped in animated.view. Then beneath here, we need to bring in another view. Then this view is going to be where we are going to have these buttons over here, these two buttons, and also these three terms and condition and policy and privacy policy. So it's going to have a display. We want it to be a flex, and we want to give it a flex. Okay, let's not give it a flex direction. Let's just align the items to the center, and also let's justify all the content to the center. Lastly, let's give it a margin vertical of 25, because we want it to be we want a space here and here. So that's it for this. Then over here, I need to close this properly. So guys, sorry I made a mistake over here, because for this width itself we need to give it a height. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So this one is going to have a style of we need to align the items to the center, and also we need to give it a width of 100%, because we want it to make use of the full width, and we want to give it a height of bottom height. So we define the bottom height in our variables. And lastly, we need to give it a padding top of 37. So it couldn't find our bottom height, so we just have to import that from over this place. We just have to reference to the bottom height, and it's going to import that. Now you can see our application is taking shape, and the height itself has now taken the remaining height from our application. So you can see that the top height takes 50%, while the bottom height takes 40%. So that's how we can define separate heights and make use of it. And you can see that our application is looking more strong and looking more balanced. So inside here, you can see whenever we open the application in the preview, the button slides from the bottom, and because of that, we are going to be making use of animated.view. So this one is also going to accept some couple of styles. Now the first thing is going to display flex. It's going to align every items to the center. We have to give it a margin vertical of 25, justify all the contents to the center as well. And inside that, we need to now start defining our separate view for each layout. Take for example, this a view on itself, this a view on itself. So for this view, we just have to give it a style of, we have to use the style sheet dot absolute fill. Then we have to justify the content to the center. Then we can align the items to the center. So I'm just going to scroll up. Then inside that, we can now bring in our SVG. So we can now reference to yellow L. So let's save that. So you can see it's very, very big, which is not something that we really want to do. So we are going to be making use of SVG button. So we have not defined the SVG button. Right now we are going to define SVG button. So the SVG button weight is going to take up, let me just say SVG btn weight. It's going to take from the percentage, it's going to take the screen height, and we need 100% of that. Also, we need to define one more thing. For now, we don't really need it because it's the input. So when we are working with the input, the form section, we can talk about that. So this one is going to accept a height of 130 because we want it to be a little bit small. You can see now we need to give it a width because we want it to be a little bit big. So it's just going to have a width of SVG btn width. So let's check whether that's supported. Yes. So let's save, let's refresh. So you can see our button looks perfect. Now, whenever the button is there, there is no text because this is an SVG, and there's no how that can be possible. So the way we are going to add that is beneath here, we are going to add some couple of text. Now the text is going to be a style of, let's give it a font family. Let me just break this down because I don't want it to be long. The font family is going to be Gilroy. Let's make use of the extra bold. So let me cap this. It's going to have a color of white, and it's going to have a font size of 23. Now, beside that, we need to pass a text called register. So let's save, and you can see the text goes in the middle of this view. So understand what's happening here. This view itself has all these things inside of it. So that's how we can make use of that. Lastly, we need to add also a view for the login for this one, and also a view for the read terms and condition. Beneath this animated view, we need to add, we just need to copy exactly this same view that we did here. So I'm just going to copy exactly this and paste that. Then for this one, it's going to be white L because the other one is yellow L. So this is white L, and it's going to have a margin vertical of 26. So we are going to change the text color from white to black. And lastly, we need to add beneath this view, we need to add one more thing called the text. Now the text is just going to accept a style of font family of Gilroy medium, and it's going to have a font size of 15. So we are receiving prop here because this is not complete. So just add one more zero there, so that goes out. And we need to change this text to login. So in between this, we need to add the full text that says read terms and conditions. Or we can just change this to normal end. So you can see we are done with the first part of this. And we can now get rid of this border width so that we can have a very neat layout. I'm going to locate this here, can get rid of that. So right now we have the clone of what we have on our design, exactly what we have on our design. Let me just get rid of that image from when I brought it in. So we have a clone of these on our Android application. That's how you can clone SVG and also clone your designs from AdobeXD into a real Android application. So in the next part, we are going to focus on this middle section of it. And after that, we are now going to animate that so that you can see the cool effects of what we've done so far. So thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and also the like button.